I'm going to explain to you how our ability to cope can be compromised. So if you imagine that you have like a balloon, and in that space is your ability to deal with stress. And when it's empty, you feel light and free. So in your life, you'll have some distressing events. You know, you might have, well, for a start, you were born. That can be quite distressing. You might have that time that you didn't know where your mum was at the shops, and another time where you weren't invited to a birthday party. That's if you had a really easy life. If you had a more challenging childhood, you might have had the time that mum and dad divorced, and the violence and the chaos, and the time that your first boyfriend cheated on you or dumped you, or your girlfriend let you down. And then you might have had something else, and by the time you get to a certain age, you're now not able to deal with basic things in life, because your ability to deal with stress, you're now feeling very heavy. Life's feeling overwhelming. There's only just a little bit of room for day-to-day functioning left in your stress capacitor. And so what we need to do is to pick out these large items and just collapse them. And you may know these things, because if I said to you, think of the most distressing event in your life, and if you've had quite a distressing life, you might even have trouble picking one. It will be just one big blur of what do I even pick? Or there might be certain moments that spring to life. And when you have those distressing events, they actually are stuck, they're not filed. So when an event happens in life, we process it and we file it, or we label it first and we file it. Okay, so anything that happens on a day-to-day basis can be put into long-term memory. It happened, I knew what it was, and I put it into long-term memory. But when a distressing event happens, we can't process it. So it's stuck. Process. And what happens is it goes round and round and round. And sometimes we just shut that down because we can't label it. We can't file it. We can't accept it. And there's two things that happen when people have something that they can't label and file. And one is they will reject it. So it becomes something that they completely reject. And the other thing is that they will become it. So that's where you see where the parents are alcoholics, and one son decides, or not doesn't decide, but one son becomes an alcoholic and the other son never drinks at all, because you either have to completely reject it or completely move towards it, change your filing system to accommodate it. So with this processing, this looping that's happening, that's what happens in that stress, in PTSD. So the event's not filed. And by being able to collapse it and file it, these things get filed, and that lightens up the load. And what happens is that when you take the biggest ones out, the other ones seem to lighten as well. So we're going to go through the process of identifying, not reliving, identifying these events, these situations, these people. So it can be one of three things. It can be an event, a situation, or a person. Could even be an institution, where it's not one person, but it might be the entire police force, for example. And when we identify those events, those situations, those people, or those groups, we're able to collapse these things. And how that happens is for something to be filed in long-term memory. First thing that needs to happen is you need to know it's over. Now, your conscious mind knows it's over, but don't assume or kid yourself that that is the important factor, because it's actually trauma is stored in the body, and the body is run by your unconscious. Your hormones, the beating of your heart, even the way you breathe is all mostly governed by your unconscious. So your unconscious needs to know it's over and I'm safe. And when your unconscious can fully know that, then these things will be collapsed. And I'm going to tell you in the next video how we collapse those big points to make them behind you.